When most people think about Adam and Eve's descendants, the first names that come to mind are usually Cain and Abel. But there are several other biblical accounts that talk about the other children of Adam and Eve, which often go overlooked. One topic that doesn't get much attention, even among theologians, biblical scholars, and those curious about the scriptures, is the mystery of Adam and Eve's daughters. Most people read the Bible and focus on their well-known sons, Cain, the firstborn, and Abel, the second. But as the verses in Genesis chapter 5, verses 4 and 5 show us, Adam and Eve had many more children, including daughters. The Bible tells us that after the birth of Seth, Adam lived for 800 more years, during which he had many sons and daughters, reaching a total of 930 years before his death. While the Bible doesn't mention the names of Adam and Eve's daughters, there are ancient Jewish texts that do provide some names. So, drawing from the Book of Jubilees, I'll mention the names of a few of Adam and Eve's daughters according to these ancient Jewish traditions, which provide a deeper look into these lesser-known figures. For those who don't know, the Book of Jubilees is also referred to as Little Genesis because of its ties to the word Jubilee, which means joy. The Book of Jubilees is part of the Old Testament Apocrypha and narrates the creation of the world, the formation of Adam and Eve after the fall, and various stories from the Old Testament, mostly from the Book of Genesis. Although it's not a recent text, the oldest manuscript we have access to dates back to around 700 BCE, but it's actually a copy of an even older work. Some scholars link the Book of Jubilees to the Book of Chronicles, suggesting that the scribe Ezra could have been its author. However, the Book of Jubilees itself claims that Moses is the true author, having received a divine revelation from an angel on Mount Horeb. It's worth noting that the Bible mentions Moses spent 40 days and 40 nights on Mount Horeb without eating or drinking in the presence of God. Given the ancient nature of the text, it's not unreasonable to consider that Moses could have been the actual author. The Book of Jubilees holds a significant place in Israelite culture, with many copies circulated among the people. It also mentions another mysterious apocryphal text, the Book of Enoch, which was well known to early Christians and even included in their biblical canon. This highlights the importance of not disregarding the Book of Jubilees, as it contains events that closely align with biblical stories. Returning to the story of Adam and Eve, according to several ancient Semitic Abrahamic traditions, their first daughter was named Avan. In Phoenician Hebrew, Avan means potency or vice. She was both the sister and wife of Cain, another child of Adam and Eve. According to the Book of Jubilees, Avan had children with Cain, and one of those children was named Enoch. The Bible mentions that one of Cain's achievements after his exile for killing Abel was the construction of a city named after his son. This city was called Enoch in his honor. The name Avan appears in the Book of Jubilees as well as in other Abrahamic texts. However, in some of these texts, such as the Cave of Treasures, she is referred to as Kelima. Therefore, according to these traditions, Kelima was the wife of Cain and the first daughter of Adam and Eve. According to various ancient Semitic traditions, the second daughter of Adam and Eve was named Azura. Azura became the wife of Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve, who was born after Abel's death. The name Seth has Hebrew etymological roots and is often linked to the concept of compensation or substitution. This is important because after Abel's murder by his brother Cain, Seth was seen by Adam and Eve as a divine replacement for their lost son. He is regarded as a righteous and devout descendant, and it is through his lineage that the biblical narrative suggests humanity continued to worship God. Additionally, Seth's genealogy holds great significance in the Bible because it leads to Noah, who played a key role in the story of the flood and the survival of humanity. Thus, Seth and his wife Azura form an essential link in the genealogical chain that connects the creation of humanity to later events and major figures in the Judeo-Christian tradition. The Book of Jubilees offers an interesting detail, stating that Azura was originally Abel's wife and became a widow after his death. Once Seth came of age, he married Azura, and from their union the lineage of Seth was born, with Seth himself becoming the first patriarch of this lineage. The Book of Jubilees tells us that Azura was born during the 6th week of the 4th Jubilee and married her brother Seth in the 5th week of the 5th Jubilee. In the 4th year of the 6th week, she gave birth to a son named Enos. Later, when Enos grew up, he married his sister Noam, who was also the daughter of Seth and Azura, during the 3rd week of the 7th Jubilee. Enos, one of Seth and Azura's sons, is known for his devout nature and dedication to the worship of God. The primary reference to Enos in the Bible is found in Genesis 5, verses 6 to 11, which outlines his genealogy. Seth lived 105 years and fathered Enos. After Enos was born, Seth lived another 807 years and had more sons and daughters. In total, Seth lived 912 years before he died. Enos lived for 90 years and fathered Canaan. After the birth of Canaan, Enos lived for another 815 years, during which he had more sons and daughters. In total, Enos lived 905 years before he died. One of the key characteristics associated with Enos is his devotion to prayer and his role in promoting the worship of God's name. The next verse in Genesis 4, verse 26 says, "At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord." This passage implies that Enos played a significant role in encouraging worship and devotion to God during his lifetime, marking a period of spiritual and religious awakening among Seth's descendants. According to the ancient Book of Jubilees and Semitic Jewish tradition, Cain married his sister Avan, and from their union, the lineage of Cain emerged. Seth, on the other hand, married his sister Azura, and from their union, the lineage of Seth was established. You may be wondering just how many sons and daughters Adam and Eve had. The biblical text suggests they had many, especially considering that Adam lived for over 800 years. In fact, Adam and Eve were the most fertile humans of their time. Eve, as the first woman, was incredibly fertile, and Adam was equally fertile. According to these ancient traditions, Adam and Eve had hundreds upon hundreds of sons and daughters throughout their long lives. In modern times, according to the Guinness World Records, the woman who holds the record for the highest number of children in history was Valentina Vassiliev. She is said to have passed away at the age of 76, leaving behind 69 surviving children, with only 2 having died at a young age. According to Guinness World Records, Valentina Vassiliev went through a total of 27 pregnancies, which resulted in 16 pairs of twins, 7 sets of triplets, and 4 sets of quadruplets. Although there are other reports of women having 50 or even 60 children, Valentina Vassiliev remains the officially recognized record holder. However, what I want to emphasize is that Eve surpassed all of these women in terms of fertility, as she is considered the most fertile woman in the history of humanity. If a woman today, or even a century ago, could give birth to around 69 children, we can only imagine what Eve accomplished, especially since she lived much longer, reaching the impressive age of 900 years, according to the biblical narrative. Furthermore, according to traditions, Adam and Eve had numerous children, with estimates ranging around 70 or even more, according to some speculations. Given their robust health, strength, and fertility, along with the context of their time that favored procreation, it's likely they had hundreds of sons and daughters. In the book of Genesis, chapter 6, verse 1, it is mentioned that as Adam's descendants multiplied on the earth, many beautiful daughters were born. An interesting but less discussed fact is that both the sons and daughters of Adam and Eve had their own distinct ethnic lineage, as Adam and Eve were originally of mixed race. This contributed to the ethnic diversity of humanity, which, despite displaying numerous ethnicities and races, shares a common origin in Adam and Eve. The study of mitochondrial DNA, known as mitochondrial Eve, supports this concept, showing that all of humanity shares a common ancestry, despite the vast ethnic and racial diversity we observe today. Therefore, the mitochondrial genetic study shows that all people descend from the same woman, which contributes to the richness of ethnic and racial diversity in our world, while still maintaining a shared connection with our common ancestors. So, did you already know the story of Adam and Eve's daughters? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Also, don't hesitate to suggest new topics or characters from the scriptures that you'd like to see in a future video. Thank you very much for watching until the end. See you in the next video.